Nate with
Well,
me. Oh, hello. Okay. I don't know what recorded or not. Anyway, I have Nate with me. He is sports med dietitian
yep.
um, through LGH, and so we're here to help provide some information, some easy questions and answers for you guys on nutrition as part of EMS week. So Nate, I'll have you just introduce yourself a little bit before we start getting into questions and what you have to say.
Yeah. So my name is Nate Hammond. I work for Penn Medicine over at the Sports Medicine Clinic in Lidditz, the Kissel Hill location. Sports dietitian. So I see, but I work with all aspects of the population. Anyone who's just ambulatory out in the world, I assist them with nutrition. Specialties can be much more in the sports or fitness health type realm. So that's kind of who I work with on a regular basis.
What is your favorite nutrition thing to talk about?
For me, honestly, I love talking about supplements, even though they don't really move the needle that much in terms of nutrition or health. But I think they're fascinating. It's one of the reasons why I went and got a master's degree, because I was looking for the magic bullet supplement and still have not found it. So that's one of the reasons why I went to grad school.
That's fun. Yeah, I find that interesting too.
Yeah.
All right, we can start getting into the presentation. Your first couple slides.
Yeah.
I know we can kind of just talk through them just real quick. So I'll have you explain, and I can kind of say how it equates to EMS.
Yeah. So the first three slides that I have are they're called the athlete plates, and they're what I use a lot with patients that I see. This is Gatorade's version. There's a bunch of different versions. All of them are essentially the same, but there's three separate days. So you have your easy training day, your moderate training day, your hard training day. Most people on a regular basis, myself included, kind of fall into the easy training day. So what it is basically a 10-inch dinner plate, and it breaks down roughly what your plate should look like. So half of it's going to be fruits and vegetables, 1/4 of it's lean protein, so like chicken, fish, even some of the beef or pork fall into that, and then the other quarter is going to be carbohydrate. So that's going to be what most people's plates should roughly look like. And essentially, you guys view it as protein total roughly stays the same, vegetables goes down a smidge, and then carbohydrates is what gets titrated up with each one of these. So moderate training day, you can see protein realistically is the same. Everything else just kind of goes up or down. So carbohydrates is what goes up as your training days go up in intensity, and that's just because that's what you need to replenish. That's what your muscles use when you do harder physical activity.
Yeah, and this would be, so you're saying most people would stay on that easy training day if they're just generic,
Yep.
At home, not necessarily doing any hardcore workouts. And that might be something too, for EMS, as you know which station you're at and time of year, how busy your station is. So if you know that you're at like 6, 7 in the city, and that's going to be, you're just getting back-to-back calls, that might be where you maybe switch it to maybe moderate, potentially the hard training day. And you can kind of plan around what station you're at. Or if you're, down at Quarryville, slower calls, not as many calls, you might be able to scale down to a moderate or easy training day plate.
Yeah, I'd say at most, if you're being somewhat physically active as an EMS worker, just kind of talking with Anna, learning more about what you all do, I'll say most of you probably fall in the moderate training day on most days of work. If you're out and about doing stuff, you're moving, like a good proxy would be a good thing to kind of look at in terms of activity. Be like, if you're getting 10,000, 15,000 plus steps, you're easily moderate training. Anything less than that, like you're pretty sedentary, is going to be much more easy training. And your hard training days are like, if you're just getting after it most of the day and it's hot, that's where you're going to really have to rely heavily on those carbohydrates.
Yeah, and I would say maybe those in CP would do, so the community paramedic program, maybe rely on the easy to moderate, because there's a lot of like driving and just going into someone's home, things like that.
Yeah. So, most people, like I said, fall into this kind of moderate or easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of transition next. These are just kind of my biggest tips that I would have for just pretty much anyone, but especially EMS providers on the go. Just nutrition tips. First thing is be planning convenient meals and snacks. So I found that working with people over the years that most people just don't have a plan, not just EMS workers, but just anyone in general. What I mean by a plan is at least having an idea of some of the snacks that you're going to have really available, some of the meals you might have. I know that the day is really variable, but just having something in mind, whether that's, we'll go with some snacks, whether it's having some Oikos 000 Greek yogurts or string cheeses or protein bars or protein ready drinks just handy, that's going to set you up for much more success than just like going hours and hours without eating and then just going and getting the first convenient thing that someone can have. So you're going to find that throughout this talk, I talk a lot about protein. So realistically, you want to target high protein foods and try and get some fiber in. So fibers is going to be mainly from fruits, vegetables, and then you're going to get a lot of it if you eat beans and lentils, and then some in your kind of nuts and seeds. And it's kind of going to what I said, just making smarter choices when eating out. We're going to kind of talk about that. Ann and I are in this presentation here, but just making sure you're kind of at least paying attention to what you're choosing, making smarter choices, and then using a reusable water bottle seems pretty silly, but just like the number of people who just don't consume fluids on a regular basis is simply because they just haven't planned it out or have a water bottle with them. And I know that it's all going to be different. I know I talked to Ann that some of you might be out. I don't know, she said you guys might be out for a few hours at a time on like the road if there's some sort of accident or whatnot. You don't really have anywhere to go to the bathroom, so that does make it a little more difficult. But ideally, just trying to have some sort of water or fluids with you, and that's where you can really use those water enhancers, electrolyte mixes, to kind of help encourage you to drink more, because it does taste better than just water by itself. So those are kind of my go-to tips I'd have for most people.
And I would say too, there's something like you guys know what the break room at LGH has. So I know like they have hard-boiled eggs and they have a few different things, and they have carbs. So they have the PB&J Uncrustables. That might be a good source of carbs. And then that might be a time too. Maybe grab some water when you're in the break room in between calls. That might be a time to get, if you can't carry a water bottle with you out on a call.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, those like Uncrustables are great to have like on the go, especially if you have to go to some. But I wouldn't make a majority of your diet of Uncrustables.
Right.
So
yeah, that's what's available in the break room. But you can also plan your own stuff.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest tip to success. Thing that I've learned over the years is just having some sort of idea as to what you're going to consume. I know it's variable every day, but just something.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, is if you're eating throughout your shift, are you less likely to overeat when you get off shift?
Yeah, definitely. Because most people, may not eat anything all day. Number of people I work with on a regular basis, they just don't eat much during work. They go home and a lot of people would put it, they just feast, right? So having food, not going extended periods of time without eating is going to decrease that overeating risk significantly. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So then next thing, we're going to talk a lot about just eating out, eating on the go, so fast or convenient foods. So my biggest tip that I would, if you could take something away, just kind of learning from this, would just be always target higher protein options. The reason why I want to target high protein options is for you all, like muscle recovery, muscle building, but then also protein is going to be the most satiating macronutrient. So it's going to help keep you full longer. So that's going to help that overeating if you target high protein foods. And then you just burn more calories from eating more protein. So like, I don't know who would want to just burn more calories if your goal is to manage your body weight or lose weight. Just eating more protein, you basically burn 1 calorie for every gram of protein you eat. So if you eat 100 grams of protein in a day, you burn 100 calories just from eating that protein. So compared to like fat and carbohydrates, those don't really burn many calories at all compared to protein. So I can't tell people to target protein enough. So generally what I would say is you could say you want to get close to 10% of the total calories from protein in a meal. What does that really look like? It basically, you take the zero off of the calorie amount. So if you have 200 calories in a snack, a great source of protein is going to be something around 20 grams of protein. So like most protein bars are going to be set to something around this. So 200 calories, 20 grams of protein. You take the 0 off, that's roughly what you're left with. So that's kind of the rule I go off of. And then I would build my meals around that, but I would subtract 20 to 30 grams from that. So if I'm eating 1,000 calories in a meal, right? I haven't gone a long time with eating. I've had a really active day. I'm going to eat maybe like 1,000 calories, from Chick-fil-A or whatnot. If I'm eating 1,000 calories, I want to eat somewhere between 70 to 80 grams of protein. Right, so I'm taking 20 to 30 grams off my rule. My rule would be 100 grams of protein. From there, I subtract 20 to 30, and that's kind of what you're left with. So that's a pretty easy rule to kind of go off of when you're looking at meals to let you know whether or not you're getting a significant amount of protein.
Yeah, so the first one is for snacks, and then that second one is for more meals.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you could say like that, but yeah, so generally the lower the calorie amount, the higher the amount of closer to that rule you'd want to be at. Yeah, it seems a little bit confusing, but that would be if you could kind of just build that into your mind as to like, okay, is this a good source of protein? Like, I'll talk about Fairlife, protein drinks. Those are 130 calories or 160 calories and 30 grams of protein, right? I take the 0 off. It should be above 13 or around 13 grams of protein. It's right over double that. So it's a great source of protein.
Good. Okay.
Next thing I would say, if you're eating on the go, if you can get fruits and veggies in, that's a bonus. I know it's really hard, especially if you go to a gas station. It's sometimes hard to get fruits and vegetables in. I was at Sheets yesterday. They have the options. So try to add that in because you're getting that fiber. So that's going to help fill you up. You're going to get, hydrated from the water content. And you're also just going to get some of those vitamins and minerals that you need to stay healthy. I'd just be mindful of when you're eating on the go of just wraps, sandwiches, burritos, subs, etc. Just kind of like that bread, whatever that vessel of meat and vegetables is. That does add up, especially if you're looking at a Chipotle tortilla, it's 320 extra calories, and then the breading in a 12-inch sub is about 400 calories. So I don't want people focusing on calories as much, just more so to illustrate the point that like it's a very significant amount of your calorie total coming from the tortilla or the bread or the flatbread, whatever that is. So like,
and I'd say, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say too, if you're looking at that plate and if you're getting your carbs more from your snacks on the go and then you're having a meal, that might be an easy way to maybe increase the protein and veggie portion of that plate.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. And then I would also just be mindful of sauces or dressings. They add a lot more calories, just mindful, right? So just not overloading it. Because like when you look at a lot of Chick-fil-A's options, even like the fried chicken that they have, they're really not that bad. They're pretty close to that rule I kind of told you about. Like if it has 400 calories, the protein total should be really close to 40 grams. And most of them are like 35 grams of protein. The problem that most people run into is they add the Polynesian sauce and they add the waffle fries, and then they add like a full sugar soda, and it just takes something that by itself is a pretty great option, and you're just kind of adding what we call like empty calories to it. So just maybe be mindful of it, not saying don't have it, but you ask yourself, the Chick-fil-A sauce versus like an apple, which one's more filling? The apple has the same amount of calories, if not less than one serving of the Polynesian or the Chick-fil-A sauce. I've never really been to Chick-fil-A, so like I've just looked at it, to be honest. So what I'm saying is the apples are much more satiating for the same amount of calories. So that's just something to be aware of. And then here are just some ideas that I would have. This is kind of what Ann kind of told me what a lot of people kind of get on the go. So Wawa and Sheets, Chipotle, Subway, and Chick-fil-A, just some options. So when I was looking at Wawa and Sheets, it's pretty easy to eat, kind of get the protein in, the vegetables in, and kind of stay within that kind of calorie and protein target. If you just order from Wawa, the Power or the Balanced Fare menus, those are pretty great from what I was looking at. Sheets, the Schmart, I guess is how you pronounce that menu. Solid choices. If you're going to Chipotle, I think is probably, or any sort of burrito or build your own place are going to be the easiest place out of all the options to eat healthy. What I mean healthy is getting fruit, getting vegetables in, getting a significant amount of protein in, and getting some sort of healthy carbohydrate in. Chipotle's are going to be the best. So my biggest recommendation, instead of doing like a burrito or a burrito bowl, is doing like a salad bowl, where basically they just make the base of the bowl lettuce, and going about your bowl that way, and just loading it with beans, veggies, meats, and then you can add some guacamole for healthy fats. And I would just probably hold the vinaigrette, as I don't think it really adds that much value to it personally. And yeah, you just kind of go from there. Like protein bowls at Subway are an awesome option. They're basically the subs without the sub, or you can go with the 6-inch lean meat sub. Those are all great options. And Chick-fil-A, like I said, I've never been. I was looking at their menu. It's pretty easy to eat healthy and get a ton of protein there. This Cool Wrap is a great option, or you can just crush some grilled chicken nuggets, grilled chicken sandwich. I would say that if you want like the fried chicken sandwich, I would probably lean towards just getting the sandwich over getting the sandwich and the fries or the chips and a soda and stuff on top of that. Because
you can swap the fruit in, like a fruit bowl, or the yogurt in, or
go.
like a kale salad, side salad.
Yeah, so I would recommend that. Like you said, yeah, you're more of the expert than me. I was just kind of looking at their menu. Yeah,
we'll have to go to Chick-fil-A. So
yeah, I'll have to go and just kind of see what it's all about.
I didn't realize you've never been to Chick-fil-A before this talk started. So
no, I've never been. I'm not.
We may need to rethink
Chick-fil-A. So yeah, I think they have like 1 or 2 in the entire state. So yeah, and then I'll just say you kind of told me that a lot of people like to go to Tropical Smoothie Cafe. I would say it's not as a bad option, but just something to be aware of, that smoothies are pretty calorically dense. And especially smoothies from there are just much more to taste good. Like, it's not that they're unhealthy, it's just something to be aware of, that you're getting 500 calories for 2 grams of protein. So I kind of saw that their number one seller is a flatbread combo with baked chips. That's kind of gives you an idea. So 1,100 calories, 31 grams of protein. Ideally, if we're going off of my kind of rules, you'd want to be if you're eating 1,000 calories in your meal, you want to be much closer to the 80 to 90 grams of protein. So if I was going to go to Tropical Smoothie Cafe, even if you add the protein to it, it really doesn't add that much protein extra to it. I'd probably stay more with like the flatbreads, wraps, quesadillas, etc. Personally, you can get the smoothies, but just something to be aware of is they're made to taste good for a reason. If you make a smoothie that is very high in protein, lower in calories, they really don't taste that good. They're probably not going to sell that many of them, to be honest. I've made plenty of them in my day. They don't taste nearly as good as a tropical smoothie one. So I'm not saying don't go there, just be more so mindful. Yep. Is what I would say. Yeah, and then, here we go. Yeah, so I would say that if you're going grab and go gas station, if you're trying to be fast, here are just some options for you to kind of go off of. I kind of saw at Sheets, they have these Fairlife chocolate milks, 2 for $5, which is a great deal. These are just protein drinks. Core Powers, they're great products, but they're just kind of overpriced at most gas stations. So kind of getting that later on. Some fruit cups. Baja Ranch turkey wrap, I found that was kind of a grab and go option. It's a great option. And then a tuna salad wedge is a great option. So kind of gave you all some ideas that you can kind of go off of if you went to like Sheets. So this would be an awesome choice for $10. I do the Shamrock Shake rockin' protein that they have. Piece of fruit with a Baja turkey wrap. You're getting your protein, you're getting your fruit, and you're getting your protein and your vegetables with the turkey wrap, and you get some carbohydrates from the wrap. That's a pretty awesome option, right? So we're going off the rule. 73 grams of protein would be an awesome protein source. Take 20 off of that, you're at 52. So it's a great option. Yeah, so like that's
pretty easy to eat.
Yeah, so like, kind of trying to be aware of being on the go. But this one right here would be like my go-to if I personally went. I love milk. I'm from Wisconsin. So I would honestly like the 2 Fairlife chocolate milks for $5 is a really great deal. If you have the app, I think, when I went there, you can get 2 for $5. Generally, it would normally be 2 for $6. So you probably wouldn't have to drink both of them in the same setting, but like you're getting 2 chocolate milks and a tuna salad wedge with a little bit of you can add fruit to this. You have some sort of vegetables to this. But just give you an example. For $10, you're getting a ton of protein again. And if you could drink 2 chocolate milks, this is going to be lactose free, so you don't have to worry about it. Back to back, and eat a tuna salad wedge and not feel full. That's pretty impressive. So like that's quite a bit of protein, right? So that's the reason why we want to target that high amounts of protein, is because we're trying to make sure we stay full for longer. Yeah. Yeah, and then I would say just eating success tips, just overall. Try to plan on eating. We've talked about that. Non-perishable snacks, drinks are an awesome choice. So all the Fairlife like protein drinks you might get from like Sam's Club, having some sort of snacks like pretzels are a great snack. Non-perishable too, I mean by that is like you can put it in the fridge. Long-lasting snacks in the fridge that are great options. Try best not to go too long without eating and just hydrate. It's just kind of wrapping that all up as to again, I can't hit on those points enough, especially not going super long time without eating.
Yeah, and I would say, like, once again, if you get a call, bring your protein bar with you, bring your shake, bring your pretzels with you, keep it in the truck, and then when you get to, so you can have that after your call, after you drop them off at the hospital, go to the break room, grab water, grab whatever that's there. And that's a good time to eat in between calls.
Yeah, I'd say that most food, depending on the temperature, can, even if it's like quote unquote perishable, like let's say you have dairy, can stay at room temperature for up to 4 hours. So, so if you had cheese sticks or something, that would be a great choice to bring with you as well. Here's just some snack ideas. This is just for everyone's reference. So I kind of break them down into protein-rich, nutrient-rich, and other great options. So the protein-rich, I gave you the protein totals. These are kind of my go-to for just what I would say are just great protein options. So Greek yogurt, string cheese, beef jerky, it really depends on the amount of protein. Hard-boiled eggs, I think you said that they have those in some of their stations. Protein bars and protein shakes. What I mean by the protein shakes are the ready-to-drink ones. So those are like your Fairlifes, your Premier Proteins, things like that come in those cartons that don't have to be refrigerated if you don't have to. So you can buy those from like pretty much any grocery store. So they'll be stored at you'll find them on the shelves. You don't have to have them in the fridge. So that's why they're a great option. They don't melt. They don't go bad. So they're just an awesome choice. Just fruits and vegetables. I'll have to say this, like, as far as like veggies go, if you have to eat them with dip in order to eat them, like if you need hummus or you need like ranch, I'd rather someone any day of the week eat vegetables with dip than not eat them at all. So I'll just say that. Despite what social media or anything might say, I'd rather someone eat the vegetables than not. And then there's just some other great options there. So if you're on the go, kind of what you've talked about, and I think that trail mix is an awesome option. Pretzels and applesauce are great on the go while you're getting ready to go to a call.
And this could be stuff that, like, a lot of it can be a little more expensive, the prepackaged, like the protein shakes, I know that, or like applesauce pouches, even if you buy them a little bit cheaper. But that could be something that you plan to have when you are working, and then your tour off, you can have other, like, different sorts, like whatever you'd eat normally at home, you could like plan your meal around that. So you don't have to have a protein shake necessarily when you're not working.
Yeah.
You can save costs a little bit by trading off those times.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Yeah. So like I would say much more of your convenient portable options for when you're on the go. Like I wouldn't personally just drink like the Fairlife protein drinks or the Core Power just for
on
fun.
a day on a Saturday when you're not running errands.
Unless you can afford it, that's great.
Right.
So that they are pretty expensive and they are delicious. So I always joke that if I had an unlimited amount of money, I would just only drink those all day.
Protein shakes.
I would never eat ever again. Real high cheekbones, no jaw anymore. I just wouldn't chew food ever again.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. And now I'll say here's just some ideas for like cutting costs, kind of what Ann was just literally talking about. So I personally, when it comes to just these convenient foods, if you can or find someone to go for you, and then paying back is just buy bulk from Costco, Sam's, and BJ's, especially when it comes to protein bars and like those protein shakes. Like you save so much money buying them from there as opposed to buying them even from like Target, Walmart, or even Sheetz, especially Sheetz. Ann and I were just talking about this literally before this. It like hurts my soul seeing like how expensive for example, like the Core Power Elites, those are the 42-gram protein shakes, how expensive those are at, a gas station versus if you got them from like Sam's Club or BJ's or Costco. They're significantly cheaper. So just that's what we mean by kind of planning, buying bulk, having something going in, because like that is a significant amount of money over the long haul. And just kind of make meals and snacks at home. So homemade meals and snacks are about a quarter to a half as much. You can make them even cheaper. And then bulk snacks taken at home are much cheaper than the gas station or wherever you're buying them from. So I can't reiterate that enough in terms of trying to cut costs.
Yeah, because you can like make your own trail mix at home and like portion it out and bring that with you, or buy a big bag of pretzels or like the thing of pretzels and
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, those are great options. Yeah, and that kind of concludes just kind of the healthy eating part around EMS workers and workers on the go, et cetera. It can apply to a lot of people. But I think you kind of wanted me to kind of hit on two other
Yeah.
things. So you kind of want to ask me about caffeine. So
Yeah,
uh,
we can just real quick talk about caffeine and hydration.
yeah, so just caffeine in general. You're kind of telling me about like what some of these shifts might look like. I personally don't think it's re- realistic to assume that someone can't consume caffeine if they're having to work throughout the night or work the shifts that you all might work.
16-hour shift, yeah.
So I'm not going to want to tell someone not to consume caffeine. But what I would say is a general recommendation is going to be less than 40 milligrams a day. But, realistically, based on research I've seen, uh, if you don't really have any negative side effects, it's somewhat more on a somewhat occasional basis is likely okay. So if you're not having kind of these negative side effects at the bottom, like increased heart rate, heart palpitations, jitters, anxiety, you're probably okay. But I wouldn't say you need to abuse, 1,000 milligrams every single day. And when it comes to the caffeine in general, the caffeine's the same compound in coffee and energy drinks, but energy drinks just have other stimulants in them, other performance enhancing compounds that can kind of compound and enhance that stimulatory effect, which make it, you have one, let's say Celsius, and you feel fine. But you have the second one of the day, and all of a sudden your heart rate's through the roof. But that's 400 milligrams of caffeine. But if you had 4 cups of coffee, you feel fine. It's because in the energy drinks, they add stuff like taurine, they add ginseng, they add green tea extract, these other compounds that enhance caffeine's effectiveness. So like that might be why you're like, I can have one energy drink, but I can have so much coffee. Why is that? That's simply because coffee is just going to be caffeine and some of these other beneficial compounds that they found in research. But energy drinks, which I am admittedly a consumer of energy drinks, I just try to limit them as much as I can, right? Just because those other compounds do add up. And then despite, what you might think in terms of, you can have 3 cups of coffee and fall asleep. The stimulatory effects on your body are still going to be the same amount, whether or not you have a high tolerance or not. So when I say that is it's going to disrupt your sleep no matter what. Even if you fall asleep, it's disrupting your sleep. The reason why you can fall asleep is because you're likely sleep deprived. Based on the shifts that Anne's kind of talked about, that's why you can fall asleep, because you're extremely tired, you're extremely sleep deprived, and you also just have a high caffeine tolerance, but it's still having that stimulatory effect that's going to disrupt your sleep no matter what. So your quality is going to be much lower if you had caffeine and went to sleep than if you didn't.
So maybe a good practical suggestion is if you are a consumer of multiple energy drinks throughout the day, maybe start cutting back and switching your source of caffeine to maybe tea, coffee, something that is not the energy drink that compounds.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have an issue with energy drinks personally. Caffeine is what we call an ergogenic aid. It improves focus, it improves power output, it improves strength, which is all these things that a lot of these EMS workers need. But the question is like how much is too much? And the energy drinks, like you kind of talk about, those extra compounds that are in them they add up pretty quickly, and that's where you can get those side effects. Like I can personally have like all the coffee in the world, don't really feel much, but if I have 2 energy drinks, in a day, I feel it much more personally.
Yeah.
That's just anecdotal evidence. And then just hydration. You want me to touch on hydration? They can roughly read through this. It's biggest suggestion is just how's regulate body temperature. These are kind of your goals. They're much higher than what people realize. 125 fluid ounces, roughly 3.7 liters, basically a gallon for males. Ends up being like 3/4 of gallons for females. Electrolytes help replenish what you lose from sweat. Sodium is the main one that you lose in your sweat, so you're going to target that, especially in hotter environments. So products like Element, Liquid IV, I think there's one called like Drip Drop. The ones that have like 500 or so plus milligrams of sodium are what I would personally target. And then other foods that are great are just like pretzels, an awesome snack on the go, in addition to water to have in those warmer months.
Yeah, and I was like, if you notice that you're super dehydrated for whatever reason, adding a little bit of sugar in can help rehydrate you quicker.
Yeah.
So sugar is not necessarily the enemy when it comes to hydration. So like Liquid IV, Drip Drop, they have that sugar that helps rehydrate you quicker. But that's if you're like severely dehydrated. So we're talking like firefighters, something like that, that can help. Or if you're just coming in and you had a call on the hot sun, you had a car accident, you were there for several hours, pretty dehydrated, that could be something that can help hydrate you a
Yeah.
little quicker.
And if you're trying to monitor your hydration levels, the usually the recommendation is like your urine color should be yellow like lemonade, so kind of a pale yellow. The darker the color, the more dehydrated you are. So you should really start hydrating early and often would be the recommendation on having those warmer months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it for me as far as like the slides that I have.
Sounds good. Yeah. If anyone has any, so my scope of practice is more very generic, broad nutrition, but you can obviously help with anything like specific. So if someone has specific dietary needs, a specific goal, specific medical condition that needs nutrition incorporated into it, how can they reach you? How can they get a hold if they want to? Like, and does you take insurance, self-pay? Like, how does all that work if someone would like to have a consult with you?
Yeah, so they can just call the Kissel Hill Sports Med location. They'll get in contact with one of the front desk workers, and
And
they'll
I can get you that number too,
yeah
if that.
yeah that'd be helpful. Yeah, so they can just call them, and then they'll be able to schedule them with myself, and from there I can bill insurance if that's what you want, or we can do pay out of pocket. It really just depends. Generally, the people who pay out of pocket have more like the really high deductible plans. They're paying for their own insurance. They're not getting insurance through a workplace, so they'll end up paying out of pocket. But 98% of people I see, we just bill insurance. You just pay for it.
And you could get a referral from your physician. You don't have to. So that's something if you're just interested in having a consult.
Yeah, I would say that if a pretty good guideline would be like if you have some sort of underlying disease or disorder like type 2 diabetes, you have heart disease, you have some sort of digestive issues like IBS, IBD, something like that, I might be more beneficial to get a referral from your physician than just trying to do it by yourself.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I hope this was helpful to everyone, and then I can make sure I get the slides and all the information out to everyone for EMS week.
Yeah, I just appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, or for joining, for being here, all the things.
Yeah.